Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for yet another episode of Save USC. This is Leslie Wyatt with SoftPro, and today we are on episode 46, if you can believe it or not. And today we're going to discover ClosingsLIVE and the mobile app. You heard me correct. There is now a mobile app, which is pretty cool and pretty slick, and we're going to take a look at it. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. First and foremost, we will record and send out a link to the recording of this. So if you need to review it or want to share it within your organization, you certainly can do so. We generally send an email with a recap and a link a few days after. So no worries if you don't get it right after the webinar. We kind of collect the questions and some other stuff and then send it, but you will get it as long as you are registered. Today we have David Proctor with SoftPro, which I'm sure many of you know. David is the Senior Technical Sales Manager at SoftPro, and he handles basically all of our integrations and all the sales and technical stuff. He's kind of our go-to person, and he's graciously agreed to go through this with us. So I'm going to hand that over in a minute, but also wanted to remind everybody that there is a questions feature somewhere on your screen. I can't tell you where because some people put it to the left, the bottom, the top, the right. But if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please go ahead and type them in. We'll get to as many as we can. If we do not get to your question, we will reach out to you directly afterwards. But if you have anything that you want repeated, or if you have any specific questions, anything that David's talking about, please just go ahead and ask us about them in the questions feature, and myself and Ellen Cremo with SoftPro will be monitoring that. So with that, David, I don't want to take up your time. I'm going to turn it over to you. And again, just thank you so much for doing this for us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leslie. And we'll go ahead and kick this off. Well, good morning. My name is David Proctor, and what we'll be walking through today is the ClosingsLIVE product. And what that allows for is our customers to securely send out documents, contact information, tasks, and messages out to their customers. And in turn, their customers can send back to them securely documents and messages. There's an optional web order entry feature where realtors, loan officers, builders, repeat clients can place title and closing orders. We're also going to cover additional features like milestone tracker. We also have a lot of customers on the SoftPro Select application that use this for hyperlinking of commitments and other documents, so we'll show you that. And we'll also show, as Leslie alluded to, we have recently rolled out a brand new mobile application on both the Android and Apple markets, which we'll highlight today as well. For purposes of this demonstration, I will be conducting it in the SoftPro Select application. However, this product is supported in all versions of SoftPro. So whether you're running SoftPro Standard Edition, SoftPro Enterprise Edition, or SoftPro Select, and that Select instance can be a full on-premise instance or our hosted solution, this product is available to you. There are additional features, which we'll highlight in the Select application that are not available in SoftPro Standard and Enterprise Edition, but I will, call those out as we go through this. But the core functionality of your ability to securely communicate on real estate transactions is supported in all versions of SoftPro. So with that, we'll jump right in. So I have a file here that I've prepared to publish out to ClosingsLIVE. The first thing we're going to focus on is contacts. Now, this product is used in a wide range of different ways by our customer base. Some, focus exclusively on the buyer borrower, where they're sending upfront docs, wire instructions securely, and then the final closing package, after, the closing has happened. Others will focus a lot on the realtor clients, especially in this market, the value proposition to, your selling agents, the originators of your business, is, one central place to manage all of their transactions. Others will focus on lenders, mortgage brokers. Really doesn't matter who your intended audience is, as long as there is a name and an email or names and emails in a given contact. And so if you're on standard or enterprise, the same would be applicable. You can have, a loan officer and a processor and the main organization. As long as there is a name and an email address associated with a contact, they can be granted access to this file securely, either online or on the mobile application. One of the primary reasons customers, utilize this product to date has been the ability to securely send out documents. So for purposes of this demonstration, I have some documents and PDFs, in folders, as well as, just flat in the attachment section. Right now, I just have PDFs, but this product supports a wide range of document types, Word docs, Excel docs, JPEG, GIF, etc. It also supports the delivery of very large documents. If you try to email an attachment out that's over 20 megabytes, it likely will not go. That's typically the cap by most email providers. With the ClosingsLIVE product, we support up to 100 megabytes per document. So those things that can be quite large, like surveys, appraisals, the scanned final closing package, HOA docs, can be sent out securely, to your customers, and they can retrieve them at their leisure. We'll be walking through two workflows for the ClosingsLIVE product. The first is a manual workflow, and this is supported in standard, enterprise, and select. Select has an additional workflow for automation. And so a lot of customers on the select application will automate portions of this. And what I mean by that is, if I attach a document or update a task, or upon an order save, it can push out notifications and update either the portal or website side of the live product or the mobile app without users, interacting with the product interface. On the standard and enterprise, applications, automation is not supported, but there is a manual workflow, and the screens that we're going to see are exactly the same regardless of the client version. So here I'll go ahead and click this publish button, which will bring up our order linking dialog. We'll hit OK, and it's going to bring up the user interface for ClosingsLIVE. The first screen that you see on the screen here is going to be for a summary screen of every contact that meets the minimum requirements of a name and an email. That doesn't mean they will get access to this file online. It just means that they could. We'll come back to this in a moment. The first tab that we see here is Documents, and the controls for this interface are uniform across all of the tabs. The object that we select here on the left, in this case, the Statement of Information document, we then make decisions on the right as to whether that contact gets to view that item when they log in, and whether it's important enough to note in an email or push notification on the mobile application. We can do that by group, right? So if I just wanted all of the buyer's contacts to see that, maybe I don't want the underwriter or whatever, I can make manual decisions, and those will appear in red. When we assign permissions on an object such as a document or really anything else, we're doing that on the contact level, meaning it will apply to any names and email addresses associated with that contact. However, we can be more granular and hit the arrow icon here, and it will show all of the official users associated with that contact. So for example, maybe it's not important enough to note in an email to my processor here, but if they log in, they can see that document. You do have that flexibility. You may have noticed when we launched this product that a bunch of decisions were made for me by default, and those are going to be in black. That doesn't mean we can't, undo something. And we have a little back button here, and that will revert back to the template or rule set that's applied to this transaction. So we do this through templates or plain language rule sets that we can build out. So when a document name equals, starts with, contains, or ends with certain words, we can then make decisions based on the contact type. So for example, if I want my wire instructions to be visible to the buyer and the lender, I can set up a rule that does that. In the SoftPro Select application, we also support folder rules. This was a recent, enhancement to the product that allows us to permission, folders, meaning I might have a seller folder, seller docs or buyer docs or title docs. I can then, permission the folder itself, and then any document that falls in it will inherit the permissions of the folder. This was added because to key off of the name of the document requires some uniformity in naming. Those documents you render out of the SoftPro application are typically named uniformly, and they're conducive for templating using the name. However, documents you get from external sources like integrations, or you're from outside of the application, if you're keying off of the name of the document, there is some implementation, with your staff to, let them know that we must call it, something, or it must contain something, or starts with something, or ends with something, in order for the rule sets to apply. Every tab that we'll go through can be templated. We can also have templates auto apply based on transaction type, or if you're on the Select application, you can also set the template, the ClosingsLIVE template on your Select template, so that when you open up the file, it knows which rule set to apply. You can have, as many templates as you deem necessary. At a minimum, our customers will have, a purchase template and a refi template, but it's really up to, your organization, how granular you want to get with those rule sets, and they can be very different depending on different books of work that you have. So we do have the ability to permission also based on the folder view. So I could just, highlight my title docs and make decisions. The documents will inherit the most permissions that they have. So if you do it on the individual level, but then you grant them additional permissions on the folder, the folder, obviously, the most permissions, the most visibility will win on that. We do have a feature for the, in the Select application for public documents, which allows for links to be publicly accessed without multi-factor authentication. That is a configurable thing, and it is permissioned, meaning you would say as an organization, we want that feature, and then these are the users that should have that elevated claim or permission. And that is solely used for hyperlinking of commitments. We'll show you that feature at the end of the demonstration. We also give you the ability to browse out. What we're seeing is all the documents in our attachments, but we can grab any document that we have access to, and it will apply permissions based on the name of the document and the template that's applicable to this transaction. We can also remove documents and rename them. So, even if you have it as, CPL in your file and you want to call it, closing protection letter or insured closing letter or whatever, that's how it will be displayed to the customer when they receive it. So you can quickly rename it here as well. The next tab we see is contacts. And similar to documents, the contact that I select here on the left, I then make decisions on whether they should see that contact and whether it's important to note in an email should that contact be changed or added. This is almost exclusively set up on templates, meaning from an organizational standpoint, you would decide which contacts you want, to share out. At a minimum, our customers will have their contact information as the settlement agent or the title company or the attorney, visible. But it is a good way, especially for the realtor clients and consumers, when they're on the go, to know who the pertinent contacts are for that real estate transaction. So for example, the lender here, I have some decisions as to who should see that, but the seller, or if I had a seller's counsel or attorney here, I would never want them to see the lender. It's not their side of the transaction, it's none of their business. And so only those things that we were expressly granted permission to see will be visible to those logging in. The next tab is tasks. And this is a way for you to proactively notify people about key events or statuses within the transaction. The intention is to really cut down on that chatter via email or phone calls to your back office, inquiring into the status of the Smith file or the Jones file. They can log in 24/7 at their leisure and get those statuses. So this pulls from, workflow or, order management, on the standard and enterprise. We can also attach documents. So say, for example, my prepared deed, I could attach a draft warranty deed. This is a new column that is no customers have seen yet. You guys are getting a sneak peek of some new functionality. This is a release that we're looking to push out in July that will allow our customers to assign tasks to their customers, really under the impetus of solicitation of information. So we have a lot of customers, and I imagine many of you do the same, where you're sending out buyer information sheets, seller information sheets, realtor information, commission instructions, HOA information sheets, wire instructions, where you're soliciting it. This new feature will allow you to assign a task, and in the background will configure a corresponding action. And that could be just to return a document, or it could be to fill out a web form, like filling out buyer information like social, account numbers, all of that sensitive information. They'll hit submit, and that will come back in as a PDF. But most importantly, all the underlying data that they fill in those forms can be mapped to the appropriate fields within the SoftPro application. So that's a new feature that we're expecting to roll out in July, but I've been here a long time, so that might push to August, but it's something that we're actively wrapping up the development of now, but that's what this column is for. We also have another feature, milestone tracker, for the select application, which will show you that also keys off of the tasks, but you'll see that when we go out to the customer facing experience. The last tab here is messages. Now this was set up primarily for your customers, to communicate securely back to you. So when we add a message here, we can then, permission that, by group or individually. The difference between this and email is they'll get an email that says they have a message, but then requires them to authenticate using multi-factor authentication to then view and respond to that message so that they choose. So we're pushing everyone behind a wall, right? And then, that secure connection from either the mobile app, the website, comes back in directly to the SoftPro application. We can also attach documents to support that message, should we wish to. On every screen, we see a user details icon, this little eye. It's also on the summary page. So when we click on that, we can get a summary view of which emails or accounts and what they will have access to when they log in. So we want to give you clear insight into what they get to view. We also memorialize that in this sort of chart here, which will show you the number of documents, the contacts, checklist requested, messages. These indicators tell you whether they've created an account, and we'll show you how that works, and whether they've disabled or opted out of notifications. So that way you have visibility if you think they're getting an email and they've opted out. Much like any application that auto generates emails, the end consumer gets to control how much notifications they get, regardless of what your intentions are. It's just normal practice where they can opt in or out of certain notifications, and we'll show you that. When we're ready, we just go ahead and hit post, and it's going to compile information from the SoftPro application, copy all the documents, encrypt everything, and send it out to ClosingsLIVE. At that point, it's going to generate an email, which will then, or a push notification if they have the mobile application, and they've enabled push notifications. But we'll go ahead and show you, while we're waiting on the email, some branded experiences. And so this is a branded, both the emails and the domain itself are branded for your firm. So this is a fake title company I set up for demo purposes, but it can bear your logos. You can have background images. You can customize the text here. We do put links to the mobile applications on the pages. Most customers will put a button on their website, like login now or my orders or my documents or something like that. And it will just launch, in the browser, a new tab, and it looks and feels like an extension of your website, even though this is a service, that, SoftPro's, supporting and maintaining, etc. This is the first email the product generates. This is also branded and customized for your firm. This is what we call the new order email, which just says that there is a new file for you to view, meaning the recipient of this has never been granted access to this particular real estate matter. And it's just telling them there's a new file. This is that milestone tracker that I alluded to earlier, where you can configure as few as 2 or as many as 7 on a given real estate transaction if you're on the SoftPro Select application. Where that is done is through either checklist or requested tasks or a combination of both. But when you'll see here, I have this milestone checkbox next to clear to close granted. When they're marked off as completed or received, if it's a requested task, that will check that off in sort of a linear progression, to closing. You can set the order in which they appear here so that they, line up appropriately, and you kind of march it to closing. Your users need to create an account. Users, your customers who are granting access to this file, they can do this, one of 2 ways. The most common way is they're added to a real estate file and they click on a link either here or here. They have 3 business days from when it is published for them to create that account, or you can update the email, or from an admin console, you can just resend that invitation. Or, from the admin console, you can just invite them to join outside the, the constraints of a real estate transaction by just using a name and email. And we can provision as many admins, on your side as needed that can push those invitations out. But most of our users, online, create an account by clicking on a link based on a real estate transaction they were granted access to. So they will enter a password, confirm that password, and then they will set up multi-factor authentication. The most common way of doing so is through SMS text. So they'll enter their mobile device and they'll get a PIN texted to them, and then that device will be linked to their account. If they don't have a mobile device, they can do a landline, and it will call and say, did you just log in? You hit pound and it'll clear that second level of authentication. Or they can download a mobile app. On our mobile app, we do support biometrics, Face ID, thumbprints, depending on your phone. So they enter the multi-factor once, and then they can check off, use Face ID or whatever they want on their phone, and it will bypass that and use the biometrics to authenticate them. If they've already created an account, which I have here, we'll log in. And this is where I need to remember my password. And we'll log in. I'll use my, SMS text. The sessions for this are quite long. So it's not every 20 minutes they have to do this. It is, 4 hours. So as long as they don't click log out, we'll retain that session. So for your loan officers or realtors, etc., they don't need to do this level of authentication every 30 minutes or so. It's every 4 hours. And since I clicked on an email relative to a real estate transaction, it's going to bring me directly into that file. They will see your file number, the property address of the subject property. If milestones are configured on that order, they will display here. If not, then this information will come back over here. They have a Google Maps image of the subject property. Here, they can make it larger, they can get directions, and then some basic information from the file. If I had an escrow officer, closer, title officer, assistant in my file, they would display here, which I don't in my file, but that we can also optionally hide that for customers if they so choose. The first tab they'll see is documents. When they click on a document, if it's a PDF, it's going to load directly in the browser or in the mobile application. Same with a Word doc or Excel, will force a download and open in those default applications. Each document has its own unique web address, which makes it conducive for linking, which once again we'll show you in a couple moments. They can select all or a portion of their documents and download them with one click of a button. That way they can get all of their documents securely from the portal. Contact information will show the main organization and any people associated with it. If they click on them, you can add pictures or logos through their account settings, so that way it adds more of a personal feel. The tasks will show the status and when they were completed. This is that new column for action. Once that rolls out, you want, if they have an action, there'll be a button here and a little indicator alerting them to that. And that would be, to fill out a form or send in a document or whatever that action is. Messages, well, we do have an optional feature for read receipt. So similar to inbox, you'll see it was bold when I hadn't read it. We can send back an event, which we can automate in Select, or it can be a manual process in Standard or Enterprise. We'll save this order. But what it does is it allows for an inbound event to come back in. And we'll go in here and hit refresh. And you'll see I have a ready transaction. And what it does is it will memorialize from an audit standpoint the reading of that message. That is configurable, and it will write to the order notes. And you can automate this in Select where you're not clicking on it, but it is something that we can turn on for an organization or turn off. We can also reply. And if I had officers in the file, I could direct them to those. In this case, I don't. It'll go to the office or branch level, or if you're in the Select application, the profile level. You can attach documents, which we'll do here. They, please see attached. And we do virus and malware scans both in the live product, and then once it hits 360, it will do it again. So we'll make sure that malicious things aren't being sent back in. They have a sent folder as well as an inbox, and they can just direct a message. They don't necessarily need to respond to a message that you've sent. You will receive notification that message has been sent. You can look under Ready Transactions or Custom View or the Active Order view to retrieve those. You can automate this in the Select application to accept these. However, most customers want to read those messages as they come in. And all of this functionality, which we'll show you momentarily, is also supported on the mobile app. So it'll record an order note and attach the documents automatically. They also have a My Orders grid. This will show all the files they've been granted access to, and you can see I use the same file over and over again, but they can sort by any of these columns, filter across them, search across them. We give them quick access to documents if they don't want to drill in the file, or messages. We give them a recent orders on the top so that they can toggle between those files that they've been working on recently. And I think it's up to 7 that we support up here. But they do have the ability to manage all of their transactions. And this isn't every transaction you've sent, it's those this particular account has been granted access to. So with that, we're going to show you real quick, and I'll bring this over to this screen and we'll play it. This is the mobile app, the new ClosingsLIVE application. So this supports biometrics, as I mentioned, as well as push notifications, more modern things. So you'll see that push notification up top. And then once we log in, either using multi-factor or biometrics, we get that same experience, but on a real fresh mobile app. And you'll notice here, and I'll pause it, we have different logos that can be branded in the file. So the app is ClosingsLIVE on Android and Apple, and we intentionally took SoftPro's name off of it. That way it could be more industry specific and not related to us. That way it's not intuitive for your customers. They likely don't know who we are, but that way they can download the ClosingsLIVE app. And we can brand based on profile in the Select application or by your organization logos. So and different theming options for colors. So when they do, log in, into the app, it can bear your logo. And what you're seeing here, is those milestones sort of in a, status bar view here. We also have a feed, which will show all the recent things that have changed, as well as messages across all orders. And you'll see me click in here in just a moment, but especially for the realtor clients and, builders, lenders, people you do repeat business with, the mobile experience, especially on the realtors who are always on the go. When we go through this, we click on the feed here, it's going to show them what's happened recently. You can just click on one of these, it will open up the corresponding file, and the same with the messages. And then we'll click on the messages here, and it's going to then just show me all the messages that I have across all of my files. We'll click out of that, and then profile, will just show your username. You can change your password, do all of that through the mobile application should you wish to. We'll go back into the order grid. We can also change the view. So if we didn't want the map view, we can, not do that. It's going to show the milestones, the contacts. Here's our milestones. If these had been checked off as completed, they kind of march down towards closing. The contacts, this is a big, enhancement for us. We had a prior mobile app, but it wouldn't allow you to email or call directly from there. Since, the new app supports that, they can just click on it. We'll open up their email processor, application, or, the phone application and call. They can view their documents securely directly from here. And the latest, we do give them a latest, and then their messages, which they can then communicate back, similar to what we saw on the web interface. They can type these messages securely, and those will be, you'll receive notification about that, but then they'll write to the order notes, directly, keeping, sensitive information, once again, out of email. And so it's just a real, we spent, some time building out a new mobile experience. The feedback since we pushed it out, has been quite positive. And it's just really, for those who do repeat business with our customers, it's a much easier interface than having to log in, and go through the web. One of the last features we're going to show you on the ClosingsLIVE product is web order entry. And this is something that is optional, so you can turn this on for your firm or not. And what it allows for is, people to place, closing and title orders directly from the portal. We do not support this in the mobile application yet. It's not something that we got a lot of feedback that people would actually do this on a mobile app. But you can do it on your mobile phone, on the browser, or, obviously on a tablet or laptop like I'm doing here. But this form is customizable. And what I mean by that is you can pick, and it's going to take just a second to load here in my test environment, you can pick which fields are present, whether they're required or not, what their drop-down values are. And the reason this is important is with web order entry, typically less is more. To get a realtor or loan officer to fill in a very lengthy, heavily validated web form is kind of a tough ask. So a lot of our customers will memorialize the minimum things that they need to open up a file. That may be, give me the property address, the borrower's information, attach the contract. If that's enough, that's what I'd have. But we can, change the labels, make them required or not, change the drop-down values, what order they appear in. So you can build out an order form that meets, your specifications. For purposes of this demo, I'm not going to fill in a whole bunch of stuff, but it does allow for, tabbable. We try to make it, easy on them as possible with date pickers. They can add, property addresses, and I always use the same address, so we're going to change it up. Sure. They can add, map, block, lot. You can have custom checkboxes. I have some municipal searches, but you can change these to whatever you want, whatever checkboxes. We, I think, support up to 8. So if you had specific things that you needed them to check off, you could. I'll add just a buyer, and we'll call it a day. They can add multiples, buyers and sellers. Their contact information will default based on their account settings, as will their role, but they can, adjust that and edit it and add additional contacts if you want them to. We have payoff information if they want to put that. They can add notes, and they can attach documents like a sales and purchase agreement or a 1003 or order summary sheet or whatever they want to attach. They can attach multiples as well. They don't need to just attach one, and then they hit submit. There's a value add to them, especially those on the go, is because just like if they bought something from Amazon, they're going to get a confirmation email to their email account on record. They're also going to get a confirmation number, and they have a request page. This will show those files that they've ordered so that they always have a record of it. You will get an email notification that that order has been placed. You will come into your SoftPro 360 queue, and this works in all versions of SoftPro. And under new transactions, it'll be routed to us. We can double click on it, and it's going to bring up a review screen of the data that was sent in from that web form and the documents. We do have the option to reject it. Maybe it's in a jurisdiction we don't cover for whatever reason. They'll get an email back with that rejection, so letting them know you can't fulfill that order. You can search for an existing file to see, if that, warrants, maybe you already had an open matter for it. Most of the times it's a net new order. So any trust accounts, numbering conventions, templates, normally you would open up based on the profile we're in focus. We can edit any of this information. So if we wanted to, we can, edit it, or we can just simply uncheck anything we don't want to write or just hit accept. And it's going to write all of the information from that web form to the appropriate fields within the application. It's going to attach the documents automatically, and it's going to send an email back to the individual who placed that order with your file number, letting them know that you've received it. So it is, available, it'll be customized for you, all those correspondences would be branded. The last thing we're going to show you today before we open it up for questions is those on the SoftPro Select application use this product a lot for hyperlinking. And so what that means is, because I mentioned, that each document, if we go back to my orders tab, each document is accessible, via the web or any browser, right? Or on the mobile app, with, its own address. So what we found is a lot of customers were using this to create linked commitments for commercial transactions and some residential deals. And the way that they were doing that is they were coming in, and this is only available in the Select application, but they were coming in here, clicking this link button, pasting the URL from Live, in here, and then creating those documents. What we added was the public document feature, which we'll show you real quick. And we'll go ahead and check off a few of these. Once again, this is permissionable. So you would decide, who, if, anyone at your firm should have access to this, and we would then permission it for you. But we'll add a couple, public docs here and hit post. And what that does is it copies those documents and sends them out to a separate bucket, in Azure in the cloud that, does not require authentication. We then can reference, because these documents are in my attachments, so you'll see warranty deed, PUD, order summary sheet, deed of trust. And what we're doing is referencing those documents that are in my attachments in brackets, either in line or at the end of the line, and then, what we're going to do is render our commitment. And there's not going to be really anything fancy about this. It's just going to be a PDF, and we'll just publish it with some bracketed items. And, we'll go ahead and hit OK. And it's just going to render that commitment. And then we give a special tool that comes with the Live product. So we click this. If I go to my order attachments, it's this one with a 2 on it, and we'll bring it over here. And you're going to see some bracketed items. We click this button. We pick that source document with those tags, and then we just click from Live, and it's going to then pull all of those links and create a new document, which we'll look here, that is going to be then linked, to those supporting documents that are in live, and that they won't require authentication. You can obviously use the linking feature, and have them authenticate. Totally support it, and we had customers do that for years. But now we can easily and quickly generate a hyperlink commitment, with the product. And so that is, clearly an option that's available to our select customers. There's no additional cost for this, which then leads me to the last thing we'll show you is the process for signing up and what does it cost for this sort of add-on product to SoftPro. So we'll show you the pricing. So there are setup and implementation costs, configuration costs. The custom domain, right, which is the branded experience, which 99% of the customers actively using it today have gone with, is $2,000. If you want the web order entry feature, it's an additional $595 one-time setup fee. This product supports multiple brands. So if I have a title company and a law firm and I'm on an instance of Select, I can have different branded experiences based on those different business units as long as they're divided by profile. So that's what this fee would be, is for an additional custom domain. The monthly costs are tiered. You would pick the tier that makes the most sense, but at the most it is $4 per order. And what we mean by order is, SoftPro file. So it's intended to be sort of an all-you-can-eat, without a better way of putting it, pricing. So if I use it in file 1, 2, 3, 4, and I publish out one thing in 1 month and then another thing in another month, or a million things in that first month, it's just one flat fee with monthly minimums. So in tier 1, if I did 51 files that month, it would be $204. Or if I did 48 files that month, it'd be $200 because there's a minimum of 50. So that's the pricing for the product. If it's something that you're interested in, you can always reach out to myself at david.proctor, Proctor, at SoftProCorp, as in corporation.com, and we can set up a demonstration for you for your firm where you can ask questions live. Or if you're on standard or enterprise and want to see it in that version, absolutely reach out. We'll schedule a demonstration. And then it's simply, send out a contract, and it typically takes between 4 and 6 weeks, from contract execution to when you're up and running with the product. And with that, I'll sort of open it up to any questions. I know, Leslie, maybe we have gotten some come in during the course of the demonstration.
Yep, you sure did. Somebody just asked, it says, if the phone app is open on a realtor's phone when an email is sent to them from live announcing a new order, does the phone app refresh and show the new order?
It will. They'll also, if they have push notifications set up, they'll also get an alert, even if they're actively using their phone, that has happened, if you want them to get that notification.
Okay. Someone else said, do I want to download ClosingsLIVE or SoftPro Live?
ClosingsLIVE. SoftPro Live is a legacy app that we're in the process of deprecating. So it will not, and if you can download SoftPro Live, good. I thought it should be taken down pretty quickly, but
okay.
The ClosingsLIVE is the newest, more modern application. You will need to have access to it, meaning you must be an existing live customer or be privy to another file from another customer in order to have the ability to log in. But absolutely, you can download the ClosingsLIVE app on Android and Apple, are available today.
Okay. So when asked, once a document has been made available, can it be removed or voided ever?
Absolutely. Yeah, part of the training, and this would be on any version of SoftPro, is we will train you. Say I send out something and a minute later I realize I shouldn't have sent it, right? You can always go in real time, and delete that document. So if I just hit remove and post, it's gone from everybody that minute. It's gone. Now you can also say Bob leaves the firm, for example. And so we'll come out here from a customer admin. And once again, you can provision as many admins as you want. So say you sent, 20 files to somebody. they're no longer, in business or whatever, you want to remove access. An admin user can not just, you can always unpublish things like we just did, right? But we can also, from a user management perspective, we can delete or, well, not delete, disable is really the best word. This ever loads in my little dev environment here, but you can, kill access when we go into users, and I don't have any, on this dev environment, but you will see a list of the users here and the ability to delete them. You can also invite them to join here as well, but you can manage both your users as well as, each document or order as you publish it out, you can remove or alter as you deem necessary.
Okay. Someone else asked, and this is from the very beginning, when you were talking about sending it like to the different parties, it says, does this also work to send items to people that are listed in the other sections in the contact?
Yeah, that's a super good question, and let's find out. I'll add another. I believe it is supported, but you can't key off of the other contact type. So we'll just do other here, and then we'll just add an email. Once again, it's a name and an email, and then we should be able to see them here. But you can't key off of the other type if you're on the select application. We can't template that. You can template for other, which would mean everyone gets it. Let me see. No, all right. We'll look into that. I don't know if it's just this environment, but I might be wrong. But it should. My understanding is that we did support that. But Leslie, if you could just take down the individual's information on that, I'll reach out via email and confirm this. I'm not sure if it's just this environment or if it's global.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions that we have. So I think if we don't have any more questions, then David, I just want to say thank you. And I want to thank everyone else for joining us today. And if you have any follow-up questions, please go ahead and just send them to David or myself. And like I mentioned earlier today, we will send out a recap with a link to this recording. So if you need to show it to anyone or have any questions, I know it's a lot of information up front. So we will send that out. And again, if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, feel free to go ahead and just reach out to us. And with that, we will sign off and we will see you on our next episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you.